what's actually closing the most deals, not just generating leads?
Yeah, so it's a mix between LSA, PPC, and GMB. Organic does really good, but we do a lot of TV, radio, and billboards. And we've got massive wrap trucks that Kick Charge Dan Antonelli did. So the brand's right. Getting the brand right, I did in like 2019.
Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Plumbing and HVAC Hustle Podcast. And today I've got Tommy Mello on talking about 10xing your home service leads. How you doing, sir?
I am great. How are you?
Doing great. Most people know your story, so I'm not going to go crazy into that. But if you want to do like a 1 minute just recap of like why you're eminently qualified to talk about the subject for those who may not know you.
Yeah, well, I've got a garage door business. We do over 30. I get over 30,000 leads a month. I convert about 23,000 of those when you think about conversion rate and booking rate. So I know how to attract clients when it comes to demand-driven services or any home service or home improvement company. And I think when you're getting started, the main goal is to find something that the big guy can't do. And usually that's relationships. I always say that's something that there's no algorithm that's going to break with relationships. So going out there and meeting people, I think the problem is people are scared and they're afraid to ask for help and they're afraid to socialize with people. I mean, there was never a dull moment with me. If I wasn't running calls, I was at a chamber of commerce or talking to realtors or going meeting builders or architects or designers. And I think that's kind of a lost talent. And as you get bigger, you get a little spoiled and you can just pay more for leads. But it's very important that you understand attribution and you know where your leads are coming from and you know how they're converting. And I'm very meticulous when it comes to attribution. In fact, I've got almost 8,000 call tracking numbers. We use Schedule Engine. That's really, really the right tool to pull attribution. And yeah, I mean, to drive that many leads, you got to be doing a lot of good stuff, right?
Let's tap back into the early part of your story. When you look back, what's one marketing move that you doubled down on that changed the trajectory of A1 and why did it hit so hard?
Well, back in the day, there used to be what's called a 7-pack. It was the Google Local GMBs. Now it's a 3-pack. And there just used to be a ton of ways to get leads. It showed the hours of operation, showed things like the reviews, the pictures. And I just got really good. I found out what the algorithm wanted. They wanted citation sites, name, address, phone number needed to match. It needed a lot of reviews with pictures in them. And I got really good at kind of ranking multiple locations. So I had different showrooms. So those were great leads. They were trustworthy leads. You see, there was a long time where everybody just skipped all the ads. They could totally tell they were really dark yellow. So this was like the first area that showed up. And so organic Google has always done well for me. I wish I was really good at social media leads. It's not the same conversion rate or the same clientele. Still a lot of money there. But I think the best thing to go after is get, 24 hours. Don't say you're open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Make sure nights, weekends, holidays, that's when the best business comes. That's when all your competitors say they're closed. And those emergency numbers, emergency jobs they're the best money. Both decision makers are home. They don't mind if they pay extra.
All right. When you look across your marketing today, so cut forward to today, what's actually closing the most deals, not just generating leads?
Yeah, so it's a mix between LSA, PPC, and GMB. Organic does really good, but we do a lot of TV, radio, and billboards. And we've got massive wrap trucks that Kick Charge Dan Antonelli did. So the brand's right. Getting the brand right, I did in like 2019. We were $40 million, I think, when I rebranded. And getting the brand right to let people know you're an expensive, affluent, you're not going to cut corners. You got new trucks. You got the best tools, the best technicians. And then, I do a lot of TV, radio, billboards. And what happens is it helps my Valpak do better. It helps Google do better. It helps LSA, PPC. Everything does better when you're doing these national branding campaigns. And you got to do a lot of it. You want to own your channels. You don't just want to I call it spray and pray, where you're a little bit everywhere. You want to, if you're going to do radio, do one station. I follow a guy called Roy Williams, the Wizard of Ads. I spent a day with him in Austin. I don't pay him to do my media buys, but he's very good at telling the story. And I think that if you tell the right story and people remember who you are, you're building the future of your business.
So if you look in your attribution right now, what's that? No, just for the people, because this is what the people want. What's
Still
the
GMBs.
number one lead?
Still GMBs by far. Yeah. I mean, still today.
That's beautiful.
And I would say I'm probably one of the only companies that have that, because it's really hard to rank now. It really is. And you got to know, like, look, we pick our locations very strategically. I think most people are trying to get close to their wholesale shop supply, close to a freeway. We're trying to be in the right neighborhood where no one else is getting a lot of reviews. Like, we pick our locations to rank to get the phone calls. And I've never met another company that does that.
Very smart. As you've scaled past 200 million, kind of crazy to say, by the way, congratulations. How do you know when it's time to pour gas on a strategy versus cut bait fast?
Well, the idea is always be top graded. I think what builds a market is if your KPIs are dialed in, I could put a lot more money into that market. But it's always this capacity planning issue. I mean, whether it's a marketing idea, like, you got to make sure you got the right leadership in a market, and you got to make sure there's a brotherhood there. I mean, that's just the way it is for me. If I got the few things aligned in a market, I can spend crazy amount of money. I mean, I could take a market from 15 million to 40 million in a year. So it's really about aligning interests. But I'm in 22 states, so I can test things out in certain markets before I scale. I call it nail it and scale it. I don't need to go all in. Like, one of the things having private equity backing us is they don't like you to go have a gut feeling. They like to say, hey, try it here, then go to 3 more markets, then you do it to all your markets once we know what's going to work. And I think I've changed a lot because of that. I'm more conservative than I've ever been, because it's a much bigger boat now, and you can't turn it as fast. You got to test things, but the size that we are, it's kind of nice that we are able to test those things.
Is there any things that you remember recently that, like, you cut bait on? Like, you all right, go, like, you got rid of it quick.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
what's an example of that?
Omaha, Wichita, and Portland. We closed those markets. We didn't need to close them.
I mean, more like marketing. That's awesome, but marketing method, I mean.
Well, I'm just saying that, yeah. So for marketing, let me think. What did I cut?
I like the way you look at it. You got, like, this enterprise mode that it's hard to kind of come down to the common man's problem.
I guess with social media, like, we've tried a bunch of different things, and I just got affiliate marketing. It was not taking off like I needed it to. It doesn't work like I wanted it. And we plan on getting so many leads from that. And so now we got to find the leads from somewhere else, because that's how we build our budget based on how many leads we can get. So our yearly, monthly, quarterly budget, all that's done off leads. So if you plan on getting leads from somewhere and they don't come through, you got to figure out how to get them in another channel. So
what's for somebody of your size, just to go off for a second, like, what's a viable lead generation strategy source? Like, how much revenue would it produce in total for it to count for you? Or what percentage of that market? Or how do you look at it as, like, because I always think about, like, 5 to 8 real lead gen sources, because that's, like, what I can fathom, that, like, get $1 million or more is what I'm shooting for, right? Like, that's one way I look at it. But what is for you, it's got to be probably pretty high amount of revenue per that lead source for it to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, even like Angie's List or eLocal or any of the other lead aggregators, they got to be able to turn on more than just a couple leads a week. So, I don't want to try something if it doesn't really bring in tons of leads. But there's other things to do stuff, like whether you're doing like a local college, promoting a hockey game or a football game at a high school. Those don't bring in a ton of leads, but they get us a backlink. They get us good in the community. Like, we've got enough bandwidth to do it. So not every single thing we do is like this enterprise, crazy, big idea. It's like you add up a lot of these small things
Okay.
and they turn into something amazing. So whether it's a bowling league, a high school league, door knocking for your summer camp vacation that the kids want to do, we try to get involved in a lot of that in nonprofit as well.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that goes to the theme of what I'm trying to get across too in some of our marketing right now around this idea of community involvement. How do you identify those opportunities? Do you give permission to your different branches to kind of involve themselves at that level? How do you get that? How do you find those opportunities, all those community focused things?
Well, we have a full-time PR person. Public relations is pretty good at identifying those things. Number one. Number two is I got a lot of people involved in nonprofits, and I try to see what goes straight towards the cause. And selfishly, we check what's their domain authority, make sure we get a backlink. We also say, how big is this, and are they willing to play ball and advertise to their list? So I'll donate 20,000, and then what we'll do is we'll say, send this advertising out to your list of A1 made a donation. And here's a link. If they go to a link and buy an opener, a garage door tune-up, a new door, we're going to give them 8% back. So we'll give the charity. So any one of the people that love your charity, anybody that uses us, we're going to give them 8%. And I think that goes a long way. I mean, for me, it's just a marketing cost.
What do you think about? So one of the things, I honestly feel like I have a whole chapter about giving in my book. And I feel like it's the most controversial one, which is like give and talk about it, which a lot of people will be careful because they believe that it's negative to talk about causes they're giving to. And I'm just saying, some people feel that way. And so like, I literally say it's controversial, but I believe you should, because it's inspirational and it's honestly, it's motivating for us sometimes, right? I give more sometimes because it does affect my marketing, which is positive. I don't think that's negative. What would you say to people that are scared to talk about the fact that they give?
Well, I think the idea of giving is, I believe in this cause so much, I gave and you should give too. It shouldn't be look at me, look at everything I do. It should be, this is a great cause. I invest in it because me and my team believe in it. And you should too. If you do that correctly, you're doing the right thing. But a lot of people, they do it the wrong way. It's kind of vanity. They want the eyeballs. I mean, look, I don't mind telling you, I've given $1 million next month to my church. And there's really not a whole lot going to come back. I don't think. I'm not expecting anything. This is something I wanted to do. And I think you should have a forum of that. You should be able to talk about these things. And a lot of people that are like, that's my own business, because they're afraid to sound like put it out there. I think there's two types of people: the ones that don't want to say anything, the ones that want to tell everybody.
Still a lot of money chasing these transactions. There's still really good outcomes out there for sellers. It's good to have someone like us in your corner, because we're not emotional, but guess what? When you're selling your business, it becomes emotional, and so it's really good to have an intermediary, there every step of the way. www.sfpadvisors.com. All the contact information is directly on the website.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's like, do it in a classy way. If you're going to talk about it, be subtle, but make it about the cause. Like, you're telling people about this cause and you're getting the word out, which is, you have an opportunity because you have a little bit of a larger platform to like really drive some interest in that cause, which is really cool. And I think every one of these small businesses in towns across America, up to medium size, up to very large size, have a unique opportunity because they go hard on marketing and they know how to get the word out about something, and they could get the word out about that charity, which is, I think, very positive.
100%.
All right. So what metrics or signals do you trust most when deciding if a marketing channel is truly working?
Well, you got to look at your booking rate, your conversion rate, your average ticket, and your cost per lead. Those four, in that order. I mean, look, if your cost per lead is realistically, if my ticket average is big enough, who cares what the cost per lead is? You might say, well, I only like to spend $100 a lead. But what if they're all buying this lead source is all wood overlay garage doors where I make the most profit on. So you got to look at those KPIs and evaluate them. And the problem I have with most companies is they don't take long enough to evaluate a lead source. Like if you're going to do Valpak or Clipper, usually you're going to find out those within a couple months. They don't have a lot of shelf life. If you're going to do TV, radio, billboards, stuff like that, bus stops, you got to give it at least a year because they're not direct response most of the time. So I think a lot of people, they do they do marketing because they don't know what they're doing. They spray and pray, and they want to hear themselves. They love hearing their jingle. They love people, their friends hear them, but it doesn't mean it's effective. I think people do a lot of marketing just to say, hey, I did that. I'm doing that. And I think I'm doing good. And what's sad about it is if you answer your phone and you got a decently good team, you'll still make money doing that.
Yeah, you kind of talked about cutting one. What's another one, a specific method where maybe it was a test or experiment, and then you decided, oh God, this test worked. I'm going to double down or 10x what I was doing.
Well, during COVID, one of my market managers in Milwaukee said, hey, would you mind if I did some TV ads? Now everybody's cutting all their marketing. By the way, the ads were a fifth of the price for TV. I mean, it cut so low. And I go, yeah, go ahead and do it. Little did I know there was 5 times the population at home watching the ad. Everyone's trying to fix up their house during COVID. So it was like 25x return on investment. So I literally, we got PPP money. This is before we were involved with private equity, but I put all that money into marketing TV, and it grew us like crazy because it was proven that it was getting such a great response. And when you go, like that's the difference is when everybody's afraid is when to go in. And I don't go in like a little bit like, oh, let's keep going to really slow. I just went all in. And it worked.
Love that. How about like being tempted by a marketing trend? Is there anything where you've been tempted and
YouTube and YouTube and social media, Meta, Instagram, all that stuff. Like I know it works. I know it will deliver. I think I'm apprehensive because the lead quality is not there, and I know my guys are not going to be able to convert the same. And it's almost like you got to teach the technicians how to handle different lead sources. And so social media, I know, could drive an unlimited amount of leads per day. It's just we haven't been great at it. Our ticket average is too small.
All right, what's one other one? I'm just going to keep going. These are good. So what's one other one that you had to walk away from that it didn't deliver? Anything else where it's like, was a shiny object for you and maybe is a shiny object for other home service businesses that you've seen?
Well, I'll tell you this. Some easy things to get trapped is going to Home Depot, Lowe's, Costco, going to home warranty companies. Because technically they kind of are your marketing sources because they're giving you leads. But they take a piece of everything and they kind of screw you. And you can make a business work with those companies, but it's never really profitable, unfortunately. You're making a living. You're not really making what you should make if you own a business after 5 years. So I think there's these ways, Menards, Home Depot, even these home warranty companies where you get a good steady flow of leads. They're just not quality. You're not making the money. They always want their cut. Home warranties are okay. They keep you busy, but they're just race to the bottom. So you watch. Anybody that's listening to this getting those leads, they know what I'm talking about. They take them because they have to. Literally because they're not good. It's their penalty for not being good at marketing. Is just saying, I'm going to be cheap. They drive used trucks. Their employees make less money than every other company. Their building sucks. They can't buy a new building. They lease. They got old computers. They complain about prices with Service Titan. So they go to Jobber because it's more affordable. Those are the guys. That sucks. It sucks because you're not good at marketing. You're not good at sales. And you probably don't believe in yourself.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Next up, what advice would you give home service business owners stuck chasing shiny objects instead of multiplying what's already winning. I think this is the people that are jumping around from agency to agency, people that are jumping around from method to method. They cut Facebook ads because they're doing Google ads. They cut Google ads because they're buying Angie leads. They're just jumping around a lot. And I'm sure you've seen this before where people just are not multiplying what's winning, they're switching.
Well, I think the deal is the first thing I do now. I used to ask for people's KPIs when I invested in business. Now I ask for the technology. And there's certain technology that's really good at really pulling out the outliers of the data, because you got to have data integrity. So I want to look at the numbers. And if you know the numbers, it's black and white what you should be doing. If you talk to the companies you're talking about right now, they don't know the data. They're not good at math. They're never, there's, in their minds, they're almost afraid of the data. It's almost like going to the doctor. They're not comfortable because they don't want to find out what's wrong, even though it might save their life. So as this data starts to come to fruition, there's no question. Here's what we're going to do. Bing, 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 bing. And that's the problem with your job as being their agency, is to help give them enough data to feel comfortable with you that it's working. Or identify you're not answering your phones at this time, or you got this one guy that's, 30% conversion rate. No marketing works if you're not converting. Or your outlier from your top guy to your bottom guys, outrageous. You need to start training these guys more. Let's lower your marketing so you can top grade a couple of these people. But I've never heard a marketing company do that. I've never heard them even get so deep into business. I'd rather have quality over quantity and be able to have a business I could grow. I'm still with most of the same companies I started with that actually cared. So, I think that an agency's problem is they're trying to just onboard 1 million people, never give the right data to make you want to stay with that company. I've not seen a lot of them to this day. They'll give them a couple of things, but they're not sitting there once a week in that company's business talking about what's going on with training and hiring and everything else.
Yeah. So if I was to challenge, let's say we have a client or something and they're, what's a close rate when it dips under that? I should be like pushing back hard. And to be clear, I know my close rate, and it's not as high as I'd like. I heard somebody say, so mine's 22%, for us, in marketing services, right? Totally different thing. But I heard somebody say, even if it's just 25%, he's basically like, if you can just keep your close rate at 25% consistently, you will be rich. Do you disagree with that? How do you feel about close rates? Do you believe it? What's a number that it goes under that is a massive red flag?
I think every industry is different. I mean, look, it depends on the size of your tickets and the lead source. If you're doing bath remodels and roofing, you're talking about $30,000, $40,000 tickets. You don't need the conversion rate to be as high. If someone calls me for a broken spring, I better be at 95% plus. You call me out there, you're busted, you can't get out of your home. I've got the part and the tools to do it right now. What is it going to take to earn your business? So when we give options, because if you're not giving options, the customer could either say yes or no. So you got to give options in these circumstances. But every industry is different. So usually what I'll do is I'll go talk to the biggest players. Whoever the biggest company in a market is, they're also the most expensive. That's a guarantee. And usually they'll tell you. And then if you got a client, you just say, look, this, or you take the top technician and you say, I know 73% possible. So for you, as your company grows, I'd say, who's got the number one close rate on my team? Maybe they're at 38%. You need to do some research and figure out how they're closing. Because here's the deal. If you're a blended 22, somebody's closing less, somebody's closing more, if there's more than one person doing it. So your job is to find out how to get everybody. As that top person goes higher, the whole company should go higher. That's a really important thing, is most businesses spend all the time with their low performers when their top performers still have the ability to double. So I tend to focus on my top 20% to see how high I can bring them. Because when I bring them up higher, the whole company does better.
All right, let's kind of just round out this topic of doubling down, 10xing, etc. When you spot something working in your business on marketing, how do you think about scaling it 10 times bigger instead of just making it a little bit bigger?
Well, there's this thing called the point of diminishing returns, right? So how far could I take it? PPC is great when you're doing your own keywords, but when you start having to go after general words, it gets more expensive. And if you're gonna be number one in everything, you got to have high quality scores, but you're still spending a lot of money. So there's certain things like Valpak or Clipper, when you spend more money, you actually get a discount. So it actually makes sense to go big. The more zones you get, the better you are. I would say that you've got to have a really, really, really good pulse on the data. I mean, I get a report every single day. I mean, we are sitting down for 2 hours a week looking at marketing data, and monthly for 4 hours. Like, we're not like, well, we'll go revisit this whenever. Like, we're all in. Like, I'm having meetings with all my different vendors. And basically, I'm giving one of them an ultimatum saying I'm going to cut half my zones unless you guys give me a credit here. If my KPIs are good, I was one of the first companies to come up with paid for performance, that you get complete attribution on a daily basis for things like Gannett, Arizona Republic, Milwaukee Sentinel, places like that, because they can afford to put me in there in their remnant space, and they know I convert at a high pace. So I think you got to be able to identify winners. And going back to this, people just don't know the data. And Ellen Rohr used to work with me about knowing your numbers, not necessarily marketing, but your financials. And then I got obsessed with just making sure down to the decimal I know what's working. And typically, a lot of it goes back to training. When people think about Tommy Mello, I want them to think we train. And we never get done training. It's not like something you do every month. It's something you are. You're in football, we used to do 2-a-days. We practice 10 times a week to play once. So here's the problem, Tim. Somebody is still making the yellow book work. Guaranteed. They're going after, 65 plus communities. There's nothing that doesn't work. So what I tend to do is rip off and duplicate R&D. I'll go talk to the company that's got the first double truck in the yellow book in Albuquerque, and I'll go find HVAC, roofing, or plumbing, and they'll tell me everything they know because I'm not their competition. I don't take anybody's advice unless they're real people doing it. I'm not going to go to a trainer to get fit if they're a fat ass. So you go find the person that's winning. I don't have kids yet, but I'm going to go talk to I'm going to go talk to kids that are respectful of their parents. They're 4 years old. They're, yes, sir, yes, daddy. And they're smiling all the time. I'm not going to read a book. I will read books on that, but you can go find, just type in HVAC repair in my city. I go talk to that company. I just find out what's working for them. Success leaves clues. I always say that.
Yeah, and that's why my whole book, I've got 28 chapters, but every single one of them is deriving the wisdom from somebody who's doing the thing really, really well. I see patterns and I see, clues, and I'm trying to outline those clues, but then I'm giving it directly from the mouth of people that are really winning at this at a high level. And so that's kind of why my book is involving so many other people. And I've got incredible people. I've got Tommy Mello. I've got the best roofer I know, Martin Pettigrew. I've got Marcus Sheridan is writing the foreword, who's They Ask You Answer. I'm going fishing with. Do you know Marcus Sheridan? I don't know if you're
familiar. I'll be in my office next week. He's actually in my office this week for 2 days.
He is very cool dude. And so I get to go deep sea fishing with him a little bit later in the month. But he's doing the foreword, and basically just a ton of amazing, mostly business owners that are actually winning. And then like 7 are like coaches in the industry, but the best ones I could find. So it should be a pretty fun book.
So yeah, he's going to be rewriting our content strategy to where all the AI, ChatGPT and Gemini and all these things pick up our snippets. And obviously a lot of what he talks about is video. And he's like, Tommy, we're going to change your org structure. You're going to get 3 full-time videographers, and you're not going to have an editor in-house. That's going to be all offshore. So I take a guy who's number one at content, who's got proven strategies that have worked. And SEO used to be like, I'm a pretty high domain authority, higher than anybody I know. I'm at a 64 right now. The website's pretty strong. Now it's time to really beef it up and 10x the leads coming out of the website. Search engine optimization isn't free. Backlinks typically aren't free. Writing isn't free. Getting videos isn't free, but it's all in-house stuff for the most part.
Yes, sir. And I think, he's if you haven't read his book, for folks that haven't read the Ask You Answer, super smart guy, basically answering the questions people have in the sales process and talking about pricing a little bit earlier. So you're actually getting people that are a little bit pre-sold sometimes because there's the objections that they would have anyways. Are you going to be hanging out with them like personally or no?
Well, I'm going to be going all in on his strategy, and we're doing a podcast together, and then he's going to hang out. We're going to have dinner together. And he also wrote The Visual Sale was his second book. Yeah. So they Ask You Answer followed up by The Visual Sale. I think you should read both those books.
Both really good. Asking because one thing that I think you would benefit from personally to like chit chat with him about is because he was talking to me, I was kind of talking to him before or after a podcast that I did with him recently. And he was talking about how, he has the pool company.
River Pools. Yeah.
He's working with a shower company to create some intellectual property, which is like a rating system for the how the porousness.
We're doing all that. We're doing everything we're building a whole calculator onto the website. We're building all kinds. We're actually going to be writing articles against our suppliers. We're going to be writing articles on our competition. We're going to tell you our flaws. We're going to be completely transparent. We're going to become the authority because we're giving such honest feedback. And he goes, you're going to have to be a disruptor, the Ryan Holiday type stuff where people are not going to like you. You're going to disrupt the whole industry.
Yeah. I like that. So he's actually a client of Hook's too on the River Pool and Spas side, which is super cool because he actually found us through ChatGPT, that was like a moment for me. I saw that lead come through and I looked at the attribution. And I was like, oh my God. So what a cool, those are happening all the time now. It's kind of an interesting new world where it's like having a ridiculous amount of content has always been good. But now you answer all these like long tail, crazy in detail questions, and you're getting picked up by ChatGPT because ChatGPT is kind of a big search engine that just displays things in a text format. So another one is like lists, right? Having a bunch of lists for the best, garage door companies in every little city. Like you can use that kind of natural language question and answer format to just put out more content. I mean, to me, it's like a challenge to put out more content, basically.
Yeah, he's like, you're not producing. He goes, I want you to put a 1,400 word article out per day. And I want it to be, no one else could replicate it because it tells a story within there that only your company could tell. So that's the idea, is like how to write the content and how to be very good at it. Perfection is the enemy of just progress. And unfortunately, he's like, we're not going to get any artists. No foo need to be perfect because you're just going after quantity here. And a lot of it's going to get picked up, but it's still got to be good stuff and the right articles, the right hooks and all that stuff. But I just said, shoot up. I just paying him a big, massive check to come out and extract everything I can.
First of all, I know it's going to be valuable. He's a very smart dude. That proprietary I love the idea of creating a ranking system because essentially they Ask You Answer is like now a system in our minds. He's trying to create IP for people to like, hey, there's a ranking system for the porousness of these shower materials. So then the industry takes your ranking system for whatever it is. I like that idea. I feel like you would benefit from some kind of rating system that then the whole industry is like a standard for your industry. That might be something to chit chat with them about if you guys haven't already.
I'll do it.
All right, my man. Well, thank you for being on. This is a really good time. We're talking about getting more leads. I haven't even interviewed you on that before. I've interviewed you about everything else, but thank you for spending some time with me.
No, let me say one more thing real quick is, unfortunately, marketers only talk about leads when it comes to new clientele. 50% of my brain goes after leads for the right in-house people, the right talent, the right technician. And if you don't have the right people running these leads, booking the phone calls, dispatching these calls, no leads ever work out. So your brain needs to be able to shift to say, would I bet the future of my family, my kids, my wife, my parents on these people? And if not, then you need to top grade and get out of your comfort zone. So quit thinking about how to get more clients all the time and say, how do I top grade every client I am running? Am I getting a picture in the review? Am I getting a video testimonial? Am I able to put a yard sign? Am I getting the HOA president's number when I'm going to a job? If you had every single guy doing that runs these calls, you'd win for sure. So just change your brain a little bit about saying, do I have everybody? More leads usually is not the answer. It's doing more with the leads you're getting by getting the right people on the bus.
You know, great marketing does that. It attracts all kinds of people. I think that is one of the best benefits of having like super modern, you know, looking good, the brand looking good, the website looking good, all your social like kind of clicking.
Well, the Omni approach, it all works together.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they feed off of each other.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks,
Thank
Tim.
you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Appreciate you guys. See you later.